Hey, ghouls and fools, it's Mathematicianer here. I had a YouTube channel a few years ago devoted to different socioeconomic issues, but unfortunately I lost the password. So I'm creating this new channel devoted exclusively to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM, education in the United States. And I'm approaching this subject as a public school science teacher. I graduated from the University of North Texas with a degree in physics and a hint of history. I double majored physics history. I've taught physics, I've taught chemistry, I've taught astronomy, I've taught 8th grade science, and this video in particular is devoted to the zeitgeist of football in comparison to our cultural attitudes towards STEM. Um, in Texas, football, American football, is pretty much a religion. There's Christianity, and then there's football. That's the order. I have nothing against football. I played football in high school. I still go to bars with friends and shout obscenities at the television and make masculine gestures, even though the game is men in tights tackling each other over a ball. It's okay. That's acceptable. Um, in Allen Independent School District, Allen ISD, they spent around $60 million in 2012 on a high school football stadium, which is an obscene amount of money. And I guess they were just trying to channel the Dallas Cowboys because 2 years later, the stadium actually had engineering flaws and they had to close it down for a few months because the concrete was cracking. So I'm sure they had to spend a little more than $1 million fixing it up. But in the end, they had their Friday night events for $60 million. Now, this is obviously an extreme example, but I can guarantee, 100% guarantee, if you have a 5A school or a 4A school or even now 3A schools, and they're renovating the gym or they're renovating a stadium or they're renovating a soccer field, it's at least $5 million that you're agreeing to every time you vote, right, on these bonds. If they're building it from the ground up, you can pretty much double it. Big 5A schools are spending $10 million annually on renovation costs. If you don't believe me, just look it up or just ask your superintendent. I'm sure he or she will be glad to answer. Now, unfortunately, in the United States, we have this attitude that science and mathematics are the pinnacle of human knowledge, which is true, but only a few people can really access that knowledge. And this is really a barbaric perspective, right? In the Middle Ages, the idea of education or academia was that you had the elite few that could understand it, and the masses were just too ignorant, just incapable of doing basic reading or reading Latin back then, or basic arithmetic. Um, I teach seniors currently, and anytime that I use the nasty A word, algebra, or if I say geometry, or trig, or calculus, or physics, or chemistry, you're noticing the trend here. Anytime I use these words or bring up these topics, kids pretty much just zone out, right? Half my class will just be zombified. You can literally see their eyes just start to roll in the back of their head. It's not drugs, it's algebra. Hopefully, there will be an emphasis in upcoming years on trying to get students to find at least a passive interest in science and mathematics, right? If they have just a little bit of interest, that's a success at this point. My idea for achieving this is foremost, we have to have a public discussion about how parents raise their children. And I'm not criticizing any parent in particular. I'm just speaking about the hypocrisy in regards to illiteracy, how it's treated in the household. When you're looking at English illiteracy, can my student write? Can my student read? I guess child. Can my child read? Can they write? Do they enjoy books? Versus, can my child do basic rearranging equations? Can they understand basic, Newtonian physics? A lot of parents, because they had such a negative experience with math and science, they pretty much just vomit the same ideology, the same hatred into their children. I sucked at algebra. I did horrible at science. It was just too difficult. if you constantly express this, right, your antagonistic thoughts about science and math around your child, is it really any surprise that little Johnny or little Jenny can't do algebra? When she's 16 years old, and at that point should understand basic arithmetic, rearranging equations, exponential functions. This attitude really needs to change, right? The lexicon we use in the United States is significantly different than the lexicon used in Finland or South Korea, Singapore, Japan, France, Canada. It's just this cultural attitude pervades every aspect of society that math and science are too difficult. And yes, they are difficult, and I would say up front, in regards to the typical liberal arts degree, if someone's going into not STEM education, but going into a STEM field, then it will be a challenge for them. They will have to spend more time studying and more time reviewing overall. Some people are just, naturally predisposed towards the field. But that's not a negative, guys. That's what education should be about. The strive for knowledge right there should not be, a negative detail. Now, what I would propose also is that we create facilities devoted to real science. A lot of times when I bring up science equipment, people just, again, their eyes roll in the back of their head because they've had this experience where a teacher will drop in front of them a manual that's 6 pages long, and you just follow the directions A to Z, and then at the end you write a conclusion, but you don't really know why you're writing this conclusion. You're just trying to appease your teacher for the B or the C or the A. That's not what science is about. Unfortunately, a lot of people have a very sterilized view of science and mathematics. I'm not the type of person that says that I'm getting underpaid. I am very grateful for my salary. I appreciate my salary. I'm willing to go above and beyond to recognize that I have a role to play in children's development. If I want extra money, I can tutor. I can work part-time over the summer, even though teachers don't get the entire summer off, at least not the decent ones. Okay? So I'm not complaining. I'm not arguing at all that we take the money from football and we just throw it into my paycheck. But I do think we should devote some of that money to a science facility in every district. It doesn't have to be every school, but maybe 1 or 2 science facilities per district that can be used by middle school and high school students that basically incorporate different equipment beyond the normal, glassware, beyond the normal cookie cutter lab. You can have spectroscopes, you can have telescopes or solar scopes. You can have genetic slicing or genetic engineering. You can have video game design. In regards to computer science, which is a blasphemy almost, how we don't emphasize computer science yet. This would, I think, encourage a lot of people to increase study habits or increase their interest in math and science. You can talk about logarithms, for example. Great example, okay? Teaching kids logarithms right now, they really don't see a purpose, because especially if you're going to just say it's another form of an exponential function, then they just throw up their hands and ask, why don't we just express it as x squared? Why do we have to put this weird log into our paper? Are we going to burn it? Like, what is this log for? Now, a good curriculum idea, and this is just off the top of my head, would be introducing logarithms for the purpose of, when we go to this facility, we're going to manipulate the environmental factors in a fruit fly population, right? So already we're joining, synthesizing the concept in algebra with one in biology. Okay, evolution and logarithmic functions, being able to represent environmental changes, being able to represent our scientific understandings or comprehension through a mathematical unit or a unit of expression, operation really. The potential of this, I think, is astronomical. Fun. It's really a sad reflection on society how much we underfund science and math. In my district, I'm not going to call them out, but a teacher gets $70 per year per classroom on lab equipment. And if you're in chemistry or biology, those things are perishable. right? Sodium hydroxide, I can't just create that out of nothing. Students are constantly using it in different labs. So there goes about 80% of the budget, and then again, they're breaking glassware. Okay, where is the money going to originate for some innovative labs? From the salary? Well, I mean, look at academia. What do professors do when they're trying to get new lab equipment? They apply for grants because it's expensive. Okay, so hopefully we can have a sort of revolution in regards to how science and math education should be funded and how we fund it. Like, what's the purpose behind funding it? Are we just going to throw more money towards teachers? Are we just going to throw more money towards technology? Okay, you have to think about it in the perspective of what will grab the curiosity of most students, not all students, but most students, and pull them along through these more difficult tasks. Because if our goal is to create an informed social citizenry, right, then is it going to be through football, or is it going to be through science, technology, physics, computer, IT?